Welcome to the Moon Unscathed. I'm Dwan L. Hearn, more affectionately known as the Moon, and I'm gonna start this episode off with a small little story. Many moons ago, many of me, there was this one website called Louisville Mojo, right?
Oh God.
And on Louisville Mojo, that reaction was the exact right reaction. Um, Louisville Mojo had everything. It was social media before social media was really cool,
Mhm.
and it was more like community message boards, but whatnot. And I, through a few channels here and there, I managed to find myself in a group called All Political Views Welcome, run by a guy I still talk to on a regular basis. His name was Paul. It was ran by SlyCon at the time. And I remember in this group, there's about 6 core people who responded and discussed things. There was 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans, and then 2 people who kind of held like a neutral stance on things, kind of looked at things objectively and kind of just held an opinion as the topic came up. And one of those people was me. The other person was someone named Gunshy, who I would later meet at one of our pizza meetups. And a really fun story. I don't know if he remembers this. It was a really fun story where he's hanging out, he's talking to everybody, and here's where I felt stupid. Everyone knew who he was. I had no clue who he was. He was a dude named Mark. He was a dude named Mark in the group who kind of was like agreed with me. I'm like, cool guy. Then looking behind me out the window, there was a woman who was sitting there, and there was a tattoo parlor across
Oh, I
the
remember this. I remember this.
way. And he just says, be right back. And he gets up and he goes across the street, a very, very busy street, almost got hit by a car. And then he goes into the tattoo parlor, and all we do is see him doing this number. She looks back at us, pulls up her pants because apparently, she was a plumber. And then he just runs back over here. And that's how I met my guest today. He is the program director at WLOU here in Louisville, Kentucky. He is the vice president of programming at Aircom Media. Yes, I had to write all this down. I'm reading off a piece of paper. He is the owner and CEO of Mark Gunn Media. Bet you wouldn't have guessed that. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mark Gunn.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I do remember that story. I mean, if you didn't want to be hanging out, and I assumed that she didn't want to be hanging out, so
Right.
yeah.
It was like all over Baxter Avenue.
Right, exactly.
That is how, well, first, before we go more into it, intro, floor is yours. Let the people know who you are.
Well, yeah. Everything that Duan just mentioned. I'm also the president of a senior men's modeling group called the Mod Squad, Men of Distinction. We do advocacy through men's fashion. So basically, we're trying to normalize being well dressed again. We do fashion shows, photo shoots. And as a matter of fact, we are going to be the Louisville ambassadors for an upcoming Derby event called the Fly Hip and Ageless Derby Experience.
Okay.
And centered around that is the Fly Hip and Ageless Influencer Awards. So they're bringing in social media influencers from all over the country for these award ceremonies, and that's how I got the Community Impact Award as one of Louisville's social media influencers. And so the Mod Squad is going to be the official ambassadors for the social media influencers that are in our space, the fashion space.
Awesome. Because I was going to ask about it, because I had noticed in your social media that you do stuff with the Mod Squad. You'd have always have your pictures real nice, good and fly, nice suits, nice suit game for everybody. And I was going to ask you, what is the Mod Squad? Thank you for answering that question ahead of time. Is there a more like succinct definition of what you guys do? I mean, more than what you just said, really. I mean, that's pretty succinct to me.
That's pretty much it. It's advocacy through men's fashion. And so, we'll deal with things like everything from simple life hacks, fashion hacks, mental health, physical health, spiritual health. We tried dealing with young men and even young women. And again, our goal is to normalize being well dressed. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be in a suit and tie all the time, but no matter what it is that you're wearing, you're going to be well put together.
I'm
Because when you look,
assuming. Go
Mhm.
ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, when you look good, you feel good, and people tend to treat you differently as well.
Yes, they do, which is what I was going to mention. I've noticed in myself that there's a sort of like a discontinuance of who cares what I look like. I'm just going to wear whatever, out in space.
Hmm.
And particularly in our community, there is sort of a lack of give a damn, if you will. In some cases, just kind of like we just do whatever. Is that the target audience in particular, or just like young people in general? Like, how would
It's
you? Because
yeah,
most
it's
advocacy groups have a direction that they're focusing on. What is like?
mhm.
Who is the target audience?
No, it's young people in general, and it's even people our age and older who have basically settled into a, well, I don't care, I don't care what anybody thinks that I look like. But there's an intersection, and I'm not quite sure what the age is, to where the not giving a damn butts up against, maybe I do want to look a little better. And we're just basically trying to get those points to meet at an earlier time for everybody, because to some degree everybody likes fashion, whether it be shopping for the latest Jordans, or for women, what whatever fashion line is hitting at the time.
New
Doesn't have to necessarily
dresses,
be,
nice
yeah,
hats, nice shoes, things like
right,
that.
right. And it doesn't have to necessarily be designer labels, because we can show you how to put together $1 million look for just a few dollars. You don't have to spend $1 million to look like $1 million.
You don't need a Gucci belt. I'll just go ahead and tell
No,
y'all that you don't need a Gucci belt.
no,
You're just
mm-mm,
paying somebody for a $10 buckle and a
pretty much.
$350 belt to go. Like, don't do that. Don't
Yeah.
don't do that. That's what we know. It's all for show, and we see that. We see that. We
Right.
see.
But
Uh,
when you dress not necessarily for the gaze of others, but for your own gratification, the impact is a little harder, because somebody that dresses for the male or female gaze, if they're doing it for themselves, that gaze is going to come anyway, because
anyway,
you're exuding a different level of confidence rather than being concerned about what somebody else thinks about what it is that you're wearing.
I think that's one of the. It's such a cliched expression that I think it gets ignored. Confidence is key,
Hmm.
and one of the things I've learned, to no one's surprise, I learned from wrestling. You can change not only the perception that people have of you, but the perception that you have,
Hmm.
simply by walking into a room looking forward.
Yep.
Just looking, not looking down, not looking kind of looking just
But look
straight ahead,
straight ahead. Hmm.
slowing down your pace. We were doing a movie for a short. We were doing a short recently, and the character that my buddy plays, he asked me, what do you think of the character and how I'm portraying it? I'm like, if you want your guy to walk into this space, because he walks into a restaurant, sits with a guy, and he kind of like runs the show, he wants something done.
Hmm.
Um, I'm like, if you want this guy to really look like he's owning the place when he shouldn't be, have him walk in slow, have him talk slow, have him
Hmm.
be deliberate in his actions. And it's amazing how, when you use that in real life, how powerful that is to everyone else in the room. Because the person who's in control does not need to rush.
No, no.
And he acts
And
like it.
to circle that back to your wrestling analogy, um, one of the best to ever do it when it came to speaking or giving a promo, was Arn Anderson, simply because he didn't yell, he didn't scream, he was very deliberate in the way that he spoke, and he focused. The camera was the person who he was talking to, and he never took his eye off that person. And by the time he was done, you were either, oh damn, or you were, oh damn.
One or the other.
Yeah, one or the other. but the impact was made.
And that is, if you ever walk into a space, and this is just kind of entertaining by who's watching this, if you ever walk into a space like you're not so sure, those simple little things, take your time,
Hmm.
walk at a calm pace, look forward. Looking forward, it's amazing what changes in public's perception of you just walking in the room like you belong there. And and
Exactly.
I and I say that for anyone who goes into, if you're new in certain spaces and you're not really sure, like, oh, maybe I don't belong, you don't have that confidence, imposter syndrome pops up on you.
Right.
That is the number one thing to do. Like, if you're in the room, you belong in the room. The number one
Hmm.
proof of that is the fact that you're in the room. Never let anyone in that room convince you that you don't belong there. And to prove you belong there, act like it. And I think
Right.
that kind of goes with the advocacy through fashion that the Mod Squad does. One of the, before I speak in a room, people see me
Exactly.
and how I carry myself through my fashion, even if it's just a clean t-shirt, wrinkle-free and decent pants, even if it's just clean clothes presented well, a nice shirt, nothing weird or whatever, um, that means something. It's like,
Hmm.
okay, this person I'm probably going to listen to when he speaks. And that's sometimes when you're in that space, that's all you need to do. Look like you belong, and eventually you'll feel like you belong. And I think that's kind of what you're discussing with the men of distinction.
Exactly. Exactly. Any room that you walk into is your room, and don't let anybody tell you any different. You may
Yeah.
not feel like it, but that's the mindset that you have to learn to develop, and that's the mindset that we try to teach, especially younger people,
Oh yeah.
um, because they're not quite hit with the social dynamics that we are as older adults.
Yeah.
And so when we try to pass on this knowledge, um, we don't do it in such a way of, or back in my day, blah 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 blah. It's basically having a conversation,
Yeah.
and as long as you respect that person, with respect and a little bit of deference, they're going to listen to what you're saying. And by the way that you look, your appearance is going to make them take you a lot more seriously.
Right. And it should also
So,
help you take you a lot more seriously when you have
mhm,
intention in your stance, intention in your behavior, intention in your speech, intention in your presentation. When you show intention, that will show, like, hey, I put effort here, and you're going to notice this effort. And when I speak, it's going to matter to you that I'm talking.
mhm,
It's one of the reasons why I
exactly.
love this show. The idea of this show ultimately is to have wonderful conversations with people and get to know them, and learn a lot about how a person thinks and feels about just in general. And I think
Mhm.
that helps to just normalize talking to people, which is another thing that doesn't happen a lot more nowadays.
Right, right.
People
No, you're right.
just
You're
talking
right.
to people. It's amazing how many people I've heard have a phobia of talking to people on the phone. Even in
That's
work
because they're
purposes,
so used to doing this.
but even in works, like even like for I had a friend of mine, and she had a daughter. She was going to hire in to be like a secretary of sorts, and she didn't want to make the phone calls. She had to make the phone calls to clients and just didn't want to
Hmm.
talk on the phone to people. And I don't know what that exactly is. I don't know if there's like a lack of confidence or like a social aversion, but there's a lot that you can learn just by being in the room while people are talking. I've learned so much by being around people who are talking. And if they're willing to drop knowledge with you around, whether they say it or not, that knowledge is intended for you,
Exactly.
because they wouldn't say it with you around if they didn't intend it
If
for you.
right, if they didn't intend for you to hear it. No,
Now,
you're exactly right.
speaking of listening to people talk, you posted something, I believe, today that
Hmm.
really threw my line of questioning out. Not gonna lie. So here's my line of questioning,
Uh-huh.
and then here's my notes I took on the thing that you posted today. It was a gunshot straight from the hip mini clip,
Right,
um,
right, right.
and it concerned the potential burnout of radio personalities.
Hmm.
Now, one of the questions that I had, to be honest with you, was how did you get into radio? But let me pause on that because I feel like you've
Okay.
probably answered that question 1,001 times. I still want to know.
And I don't mind 1,002 because my story is highly unlikely,
Oh, now if
and
you call it unlikely, I can't skip it
it's
now. Go ahead.
yeah, it's highly
Then
unlikely.
tell me, how did you get
So
into radio?
I got into radio because of a dear friend of mine. Her name is Nina Ware,
Mhm.
and she and I went to high school together. And she is the first person that I always credit for my career. When we were in high school, we had a mass communications class,
Okay.
and I needed a couple of electives, and I gained a reputation for, debating and speaking publicly in school, that type of thing. And she kept on me to take this class. So it was radio, television, journalism, the whole nine yards. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to go ahead and take this class. So um, one Saturday afternoon, we were commissioned by a local radio station to record public service announcements touting the merits of vocational education.
Okay. Yeah.
And so there were six of us that went down to this local radio station. We had written scripts, and the staff of the station would be the ones producing our spots. And as soon as the spot was done, they'd give us a few minutes to call home. Mom, Dad, I'm going to be on the radio. And so we all did our commercials. I was the last one to do mine. And one of their afternoon radio personalities just happened to be theirs. My very first mentor, John Harlan, went by the name of Trapper John back then. And so while we're getting all this done, we're talking, we're having conversations, meeting everybody that was there that day. And he and I struck up a friendship. And after the commercials were done and mine was played, I thought that would be the end of it. But again, Trapper and I had struck up a friendship. It's like this guy has a whole lot of knowledge that I could probably learn from. And during a conversation we had one afternoon, he goes, why don't you put in for a part-time job here? The worst they could say is no. So I'm 16 years old. Um, the prospect of working at a 100,000 watt radio station at that time was like, what? And so I set up an interview with the general manager, a man by the name of Rick Taylor, God rest his soul. And I think it was one question that got me that job. And it was either in my arrogance as a kid or me just being that damn ballsy and not realizing it. So Rick asks, what do you ultimately want out of this business? And I looked at him and I said, I want your job. And
Brass.
yeah, very much so. And maybe a couple of weeks later, John calls me and says, you've been hired. So my life as a teenager changed right then and there. So because, back then you had Friday night football games or whatever,
Mhm.
you'd go hang out with your friends or whatever. They went to go hang out. I went to work. And so um, I'm working part time. And Rick comes to me and says, look, I'll make a deal with you. If you're able to keep your grade point average up, this part time job becomes full time when you graduate. I'm like, no problem.
Right.
National Honor Society, who's who among American high school students, the whole nine yards. So I graduate, and a week later, I'm working overnights at this radio station.
Nice.
And um, I always thank Nina because she was the one that nudged me in that direction. I mean, because had it not been for her, I was dead set on going into law, becoming a lawyer.
I think it's a much more interesting line of career path than law. Of course, law is always fascinating. It's been fascinating to me. I don't have the patience to go for law school. That's what it is for me.
Right. Ironically, I have a younger sister who's a lawyer, so there you go.
There you
We
go.
got one in the family.
You got one. Didn't need you to do it.
Right.
That's actually a really fascinating story, and it's amazing how many stories of someone in a successful space, their space. It starts off with, I was doing a thing I really didn't plan on doing, and now it's my life.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think the musical act Black Violin, if I'm not mistaken, their origin story, I think one of them had to pick an instrument. They picked an instrument, but someone else got to it first, and the only thing left was the violin.
Right.
So
and the rest is history.
And now they're touring nationwide. Two black men playing violin. By the way,
yeah, they were just here not too long ago.
They were, and I missed them recently. I had something else going on, but I've seen them. I've seen them live. Fantastic show. If you guys ever get a chance to listen to Black Violin,
yeah, definitely.
You absolutely should. Not sponsored, but hey, if you guys ever want to come on the show, you guys are more than welcome. But back to the video you posted earlier, it's about burnout. Because one of the questions I did have was about the classic song "Video Killed the Radio Star" and how we thought that with MTV in '84, like that was it for radio. And since then, we've had MTV going through its run. We've had physical media, but then we have like streaming services, podcasts instead of talk radio. I mean, podcasts are still pretty cool. That's why you listen to the Moon Unscathed now. But somehow, some way, radio, which we thought would have been dead by now because of all how has radio survived all these different changes and evolutions of media and the way people consume content in general? How has radio survived?
The fact that it's free. It's as simple as that. Terrestrial radio, good, bad, or indifferent, has always been free and will always be free. And the beautiful thing about that is, are we regulated? Yeah, like a lot of other businesses are regulated.
Right, of course, yeah.
Terrestrial radio has been there throughout entire lifetimes. And a lot of the mediums that you talked about, while some may not be flashes in the pan, they simply can't compete with free. And you've got so many choices of what you can listen to for free, rather than have to subscribe to some streaming service or that type of thing. Plus, with radio, it's personal. You can't listen to a Sirius XM or a Spotify or anything like that and have somebody relate to you one-on-one the way that your local radio personality can. If you listen to these satellite stations, everything they say has a neutrality to it. It can apply to anybody, anywhere, at any time. With a good local radio station, that's not the case. I always say to other programmers, if I can take the radio station that I'm programming in Louisville, Kentucky, and put it in Lexington, Kentucky, and it blends in, I'm doing something wrong.
That's true. Because Lexington and Louisville are not the same place.
Exactly. And that is one of the beauties of terrestrial radio. We are that local bridge to everything. Streaming can't do it. Satellite services can't do it. Even having your own music can't do it. There's an immediacy that terrestrial radio has that no other medium except for maybe television has. And so that's why we've been able to survive and in some cases thrive through all of the technological advances that have come and gone.
one of the things to prove your point, you get on the radio, you're on air about 2 p.m. here
Hmm.
locally, and I'm in the car getting my son from school. And when he comes on the radio today, the very first thing I hear Mark Gunn say today is the score at halftime for U of L versus South University of South Florida in the
Hmm.
NCAA tournament. Um, unless you're in South Florida, no one else cares about that game. I mean,
Right.
there's brackets, but it means a lot to us in Louisville because it's our team, it's our home team. So that's what it means by that personal local touch.
Hmm.
And in the writing space, anyone will tell you that when you meet the author that reads that selling you the book, means a little something.
Yeah.
When you can turn around and I've read my friends' books. People who I call friends, I've read their books, and
Hmm.
so it's more personal to me to enjoy it, or when they do really well, it's personal. It means something more. Um, you do a lot of advocacy in the neighborhood. You're always out and about at events. You're just talking about the Mod Squad, the things you do there. So like people see Mark Gunn.
Yes.
They can be in a space with Mark Gunn. So that matters. Like the people on the radio that I hear on Sirius XM, I'm likely never going to meet them unless I'm at a bigger event. But just the
Hmm.
local things here, what Mark Gunn and other local radio personalities they do in the community, in the neighborhood, directly matters. For that, on behalf of Global, we appreciate you and everyone else that does the job that you do.
No, and even more important is that when we do, yeah, when we find ourselves out in the community, what you see is what you get. There's a consistency that I pride myself in that what you hear on the air is exactly what you hear and what you see when I'm right in front of you. One of the things that I talked about in my post today was how much of of ourselves do we actually share with our audience.
Yeah,
Years ago, we didn't have to do that because it was all about the music and whatever entertainment was going on, whatever news was going on, and you were that disembodied voice on the radio.
yeah,
Now, because of social media, and I think this is something that's been evolving even before social media.
I'd agree.
And all you have to do is look at morning radio to suss this out.
Yeah,
Is that it's that one-on-one communication. You want to feel like you're talking to somebody that you know. So when they mention a linchpin of your community, you can say, "Oh yeah, I know what he's talking about,"
right, right.
or "Yeah, I saw him there." If I mentioned being at a particular event the night before, the weekend before, somebody that was there that hears me, it's like, "Oh yeah, I saw him there."
My
So
mother said
that's
that. My mother has said that at being at mutual events. As you know, it's like I was there. Mark Gunn was there. As a matter of fact,
mm-hmm.
so yeah, but that goes into what I was going to ask you because that's what the whole post was about.
Yeah.
Is so much has changed in the last 20, 25, 30 years or so. In sort of like the job description of the radio personality. I think you mentioned that there was a point in time where you showed up, you turned on the mic, played local, favorites, and you were in
Hmm.
and out 4 hours. It was the it. But
Pretty
now
much,
there's
yeah.
but now there's appearances and there's a social media presence. There's again video clips like the gunshot straight from the hip mini clips. The
Hmm.
God love it. Having the last name like Gun. There's so many things you can play with as far as uh naming and things. Moon works the same way, but I had to give
Right.
myself Moon. But you were giving Gun. That's love it anyway. Um, but that's kind of what you were talking about, like how there's the responsibility of the radio personality has changed and shifted over the year and increased, and whether or not that has cheapened, I think is the word you use,
Hmm.
the impact of just the experience of listening to the radio. And then I think even more so, does it matter? And I wanted to answer as I was listening to it. But first of all, you asked a whole lot of questions, and I'm like, I can't type that much on my fingers. And then I'm just like, I'm gonna talk to him later. But I want to ask some of the questions that you asked
Mhm.
to other radio personalities. You were like, does your on-air work suffer due to the increased obligations with social media? So I asked that question to you. Do you believe that your on-air work has suffered? Because you used to be on
Mhm.
TikTok in the morning when you were in the mornings.
Mhm.
You had your videos you put on Instagram or on Facebook. Do you feel like your on-air presence, the on-air personality of Mark Gunn has suffered because of all the extra?
I don't think so. Um, because the way that I approach being on the air hasn't changed in almost 48 years. Um, there's a lot of show prep that goes into that 4 hours that I'm on the air. There's information that I'm getting. There's stories that I want to tell, um, things and businesses that I want to shout out. Just anything and everything having to connect with Louisville and Southern Indiana. I take time in the morning to prepare for. That
Gotcha.
hasn't changed. Um, when I'm on the air, that's all of that. Everything else, if I'm on a live social media feed or whatever, all of that is ancillary to what I'm doing because my main focus is who's on the other side of that speaker, um, that I'm talking to for that 4 hours. So I think anything outside, I think for me personally, being on the air is almost like therapy because with all
Fair.
of the other responsibilities that I have throughout the course of a day, I'm working with our sales department. I'm working with our vice president and general manager. I'm even working with the station owners on some things. I'm working with other personalities and that type of thing just within the building itself. And so by the time 2 o'clock comes around and I'm getting ready to get on the air, man, that's playtime for me.
Right,
Even though
right.
I've put as much work into going on the air as I do anything else, that's my release. That's when I have fun. That's when I'm able to show off all the skills that I've learned over almost 5 decades. So for me, my on-air work hasn't suffered. What I do find, and maybe it's because I'm getting my second wind. Um, Sometimes I stress because I'm not getting everything done that I want to get done,
Hmm.
but I'm becoming a little better organized in the way that I do it. Um, in that with the mini clips, that's something I've just recently started,
Yes.
and it kind of came organically because I'm on my way into work. It takes me 20 minutes to get from my house to the radio station, and I'm usually taking in a newscast or something while I'm getting ready. And if something hits my mind, then I'm going to talk about it extraneously. And so there's no script. There's maybe some thought out bullet points.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm driving and trying to be careful, and I'm just speaking what's on my mind.
He
And
does drive
so
safely. He
yeah, I
he
do
spends
drive
most of
safely.
he is looking out the window. He's not looking at the camera. He is looking out the window. He is safe, ladies and gentlemen. I It's
and
okay.
so
All right.
yeah, and so I've found that to be a pretty good tool because it's like, oh, okay, I can make an impact before I even get on the air. I can give you something to talk about or think about or respond to before I get on the air.
Like we're doing right
And
now.
depending on the response, I can do a follow up or, just go on with my day. And so it's little things like that, um, that I'm becoming a little more cognizant of. I'm becoming a little more aware of and becoming more mindful of doing, um, because it does make a difference. It helps the brand in that it falls in line with what people are used to seeing from me, when it comes to talking online and talking on the air.
Yeah.
Plus, the mini clips give me an opportunity to talk about things that I wouldn't necessarily talk about on the air, um, because of restraints that I need to follow. We're about to enter the political season here in a couple of weeks.
Oh yeah.
And so everything that I talk about politically has to be very balanced and has to be neutral. Um, The only thing that I haven't been neutral about is getting out and voting. And I've been on that as a radio station. We've been talking about the election since the day after the election.
That is true.
So we have been on this huge voter registration drive, and we will continue through November. Um, Having worked with politicians and having dealt with politicians, I know the mistakes that they make. And so, as a radio property, I did not want to be a contributor to that. I didn't want to be another one that talks about voting and getting registered when it's election season.
Right.
I figure if I'm talking about it all year long, the message is going to get through. People are going to be more aware anytime I talk about it. Oh, yeah, he did remind me. Oh, yeah, he's spelling this out. Oh, yeah, he's spelling that out. And, I also disclose that, that I'm a political strategist and consultant, which gives me a little more gravitas when I
Mhm.
do talk about politics. And so, again, that's another skill set that, that I just kind of, I've been a political junkie since I was 12. And
Yeah.
so it was one of those things to where, why not share this information? Because people have this aversion of talking about politics and it doesn't get us anywhere when we don't. So if you present it in a way that is knowledgeable, that people can digest, and it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense, let me do that,
Yeah.
or it sparks a conversation, then I've done my job. The radio station has done its job, but we won't know how good of a job we've done until May 19th, and then November 3rd, or whatever the primary
Whatever the
election
date is,
is,
yeah, for that
or
one.
the midterm is. Yeah. So, that's just one of the things that we do that other radio stations simply don't. We know how important voting is within the Black community.
Absolutely.
So we put that emphasis on it. Um, if people get sick of me talking about it, so be it. I'm doing my job.
I mean,
I'm
if you
doing
guys
what
are getting
what I'm
sick,
supposed to do.
y'all getting sick of it, I can provide you barf bags. It gets cool. Y'all can just be sick. That's fine. The way I look at it, and this is my personal anecdote. From what I've learned, there are far too many people who fought and struggled for my right to vote.
Yeah,
Be damned if I don't do it.
exactly.
But I also
Exactly.
don't want to just throw a vote just because. So it's important that we are aware of what the issues are, who's supporting what, and what things actually mean. That's more important, because I think there's a lot of people who don't really get the understanding of what certain topics are, what certain
Right.
things mean. They hear the name of some cute uh, piece of legislation, gets a really cutesy name,
Hmm.
and everyone just kind of like sticks with the cutesy name, or gets lost in the amount of people who didn't know that Obamacare was the Affordable Care Act. That's a problem.
Right.
Um,
That's a
but
huge problem.
and then you have
That is
things
a
like
huge problem.
Save Act. Bonus note, everyone: if you're watching this, you have access to the internet. Shout out to Tracy in the background.
I
If
mean,
you're
and that's
watching,
it. Yeah, and
if you have,
that's the thing.
I want to
People
get this
do
out
have
real quick.
access to the information,
Yeah, because
but
Congress.gov is a thing, and
mhm,
any bill that's out there, you can just look it up and literally read it for yourself. You can download the PDF to your computer or to your phone or whatever, and literally read it at your leisure. If you don't know what a bill says, and you're like, well, how does he know what the bill says? He's not in Washington. They looked it up. This is all public record.
it's public record. You don't have to
You
be in Washington. And the thing
no,
is,
you
here's
can
the
just look it
thing,
up.
though. People, um, they know the information is out there, but a lot of them are overwhelmed because there's so much of it. They don't know where to start. And that's where those of us that are into this space have to, we have to be the ones that lead, or we have to be the ones that direct the traffic.
Right.
And when we talk about these issues, you have to give them resources
Hmm.
because they're not going to spend the time that it takes to actually look that stuff up. So if you can make it easy for them, then why not? Why not? So that's that's my thing. I just want to I want everybody to access the information, and I want to make it accessible for them. So I will tell them where the information is. Where can I find this? Easy. Just, I can give you a link to a website.
Right.
And that's what we always try to provide. We always try to provide where can I go get this information?
And this is kind of one of the things that you were talking about, like this all this extra that you do, the extra that you're involved with, and getting to know you guys on a more personal level, as personalities. Um, and you asked if whether or not that has added to the value of the
Hmm.
radio personality, or whether it even matters in the first place. So, what do you think?
I think for some it matters. And I think there's also a level of ambivalence. And it's not because of the personality, him or herself per se.
Mm,
I think it's the nature of the person that has that ambivalent attitude. I don't care about all that. I don't care about what he's saying. Just shut up and play my jam.
right.
Um, there's a healthy amount of that, but you can't let that stop you from doing what it is that you're called to do.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so it's a fair question to ask. And so um, if it matters, great, you've got an opportunity to serve. If it doesn't matter, then you're still serving because you're playing that person's favorite song or whatever. So that's the reason for the ask. It's you know it's like Martin Luther King's character on Boondocks asked when he during the one show, "Is this what I took all those ass whoopings for?"
Right. And it kind of goes into one of I have the branding of everything comes back to wrestling, and you even brought up wrestling
Hmm.
in the video because we were both wrestling fans.
Hmm.
Um, Knowing more about the business, knowing more about what's going on behind the scenes, learning more about wrestlers personally.
Right.
Um, does that matter? My answer to your question, I think it absolutely does. And I have a greater appreciation for professional wrestling now that I know more about it. Now that I am hearing more about
Hmm.
storylines and plots, more about how a match is put together, how um, there's a story in the action, less the promos and whatnot, or what
Right.
commentary tells me. Because you gotta remember, when you go to a live show, if you've never been to wrestling live,
You
there's
don't
no
hear any
comment.
of that. Yeah. You
You
don't
know,
hear any of that.
my biggest shock when I went to my first wrestling show many years ago, there was no commentary. And I'm like, it makes sense that there's no commentary, but I'm so used to having that
Hmm.
that voice just always going to tell the story and lead things forward. So when you're there live as a live performance, you don't get that there. So the story has to be told in the ring.
In the ring. Exactly.
As we say in the writing world, show don't tell. Um, and that's so much more of an art.
Hmm.
And I do appreciate wrestling a lot more now that I know more about the inside. So I would say yes, knowing more about uh, a radio personality, knowing more about what matters to them, where they stand, even if it's nothing so like on a major thing, but if it's just like, hey, I personally
Hmm.
feel XYZ about 1, 2, 3, and it's just like, oh, well, they're kind of an authority on that because
Right.
that's how they live their life. So now, like you were talking about being open about being a political analyst, and that gives gravitas to your political view. Your
Hmm.
when you say, "Hey, this matters," take it from me. It matters. It's not just Joe Blow saying, "Yeah, I believe it
Right.
matters."
Right.
It's like, no, no, no. I'm in the space. Trust me
In
from
fact,
the inside. It
One of
matters.
my favorite political stories was with the 2020, the 2020 election. Senator John Hoffman of Minnesota.
Hmm.
Basically, he's my brother from another mother. His wife, Yvette, was my very first morning show partner. And they were the ones that were shot in Minnesota back in June.
Yes.
So he calls me on election night, and Yvette and their daughter are panicking because it looks like Trump is winning. The electoral college votes aren't going their way. And I'm like, John, here's how this is going to go. They've got nothing to worry about. Biden is going to win, and here's why. And so I spelled out two or three different scenarios on how the electoral college map would go. And we talked for maybe half hour, 45 minutes. And the next morning, he calls me. And the first words out of his mouth were, how did you know? How did you know? And so I explained to him, and I said, this is one of the reasons why you come to me for counsel every now and then. It's because I tend to look at politics in a macro fashion, especially when it comes to elections. I am
Absolutely.
the coach in the skybox that I'm looking for things and I'm looking for patterns that people aren't necessarily looking for. And so once I explained that to him, and he was like, okay, you're the man. Yeah, I will never doubt you again. So it's again, it's what do they call them now? Subject matter experts.
We'll go with
Um,
it.
yeah, something like that. And then circling back again to wrestling, my relationship with sports entertainment is more than 30 years old. In fact, according to my man Mike Bucci, aka Simon Dean, I'm actually one of the boys,
There you go.
which is an honor that, as a fan, I cherish. I had him on my podcast several last year, as a matter of fact,
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
and yeah, we were talking about his work in the ring and out of the ring, and basically I was able to relate to him both as a business professional and as a sports entertainer because of the knowledge base that I knew about the product. And so he takes the podcast and he takes it over to Al Snow over at OVW
Hmm.
and some of the guys there. And Al goes, was he ever in the business? No, he ought to be. He's one of the boys. And so I've worn that as a badge of honor as a wrestling fan, uh, to
That's a
be
goal.
regarded in that light is, and yeah, for me that's pretty cool.
That's a goal for
So
me.
yeah, it's again, it's SME, subject matter expert. um, Jim Cornette is one of my oldest friends in the business. We met early in my radio career during a muscular dystrophy radiothon, and we had a chance to work together when he was with TNA at a house show in Shepherdsville. And actually, you can find this video on
That
YouTube.
you with Consequences Creed?
Yeah, I was
Kevin
the
Creed?
guest manager for Lethal Consequences. Yeah, and so we
I was
put
against what?
together the match.
Beer Money, or was it a AM?
Yeah, no, it's
Whatever his
beer
name
money.
was. Beer Money.
Yeah,
Okay,
beer money. And
I remember that clip. I remember that.
yeah, the match was put together inside of like 20 minutes, and to watch Jim work, dude is insane. I mean, he from start to finish, he put that match together, and it went exactly the way that he wanted it, and that spoke to the professionalism of James Storm, Bobby Roode, um, Austin Creed, and Jay Lethal, and of course Jacqueline. It spoke to their professionalism,
Yeah,
and so um, I should have been nervous going out there, but because they made me feel so comfortable with what we were doing, I had a ball. I had a blast doing it. And so it's those little moments that that I always cherish when it comes to things like that. When it comes to, this business, this profession has afforded me an opportunity to embrace my other passions and to live out some of those. Um, I you could you couldn't tell me 40 some odd years ago that I would be in a professional wrestling ring manhandling a WWE Hall of Famer.
Right.
You couldn't have told me that 30, 40 years ago. You couldn't have told me that I would have one of the deepest conversations about politics with Kane. You couldn't tell me that I would be one of John Cena's very first interviews. You couldn't tell me that 30, 40 years ago. But
And it
I've
would
been able
mean a
to do
whole
all of
lot
that because
more.
of, yeah, it means a whole lot more. Now, um, full circle for me would be able to get John back on my podcast. So just to kind of do a retrospective, everything from his OVW
Just send,
days to
you
everything
can
that
just
he's
send him
done.
back to me, and he can be on Moon Eagles Wrestling. You can just send him to me; it'll be fine.
Right, right, right. And
I'm
so,
not. I'll be not upset. I promise. I won't be upset. Just send him back.
so I mean, I have been truly blessed with this business. So, and you do tend to become subject matter experts depending on what it is that you do. And because you put yourself into that, you become more credible when it comes to those things.
Yeah.
So again, with politics, sports entertainment, um, really, I'm not going to say
Anything?
almost anything,
I'd say almost
but
anything.
anything that I absorb, I can talk intelligently about to a degree, or ask the right questions so that I'm able to learn more.
Now that's the secret.
Yeah.
Learning how to ask the right questions. That'll get you bonus tip, guys. Learning to ask the right questions is the key to life. I'll go
Hmm.
ahead and just say that. To ask the right person, the right questions, the right way will open so many more doors for you than you will ever be able
Oh,
to think.
definitely,
Like,
definitely.
I've only been doing anything in this particular space for like the last 5 or some odd years, and I'm happy with where I am. Um, Honestly, it's a true honor to have you on my show. Just because of the respect
Thank
that I
you.
have for you and everything that you've done in radio. So just to have you trust me enough. That's what it boiled down to. The fact that you trust me enough for this interview. I appreciate you. So let me just throw that out there. But
My
yeah,
pleasure.
there's so much in conversation that just sparked from that one video that you posted today. So I'll go ahead and close that particular segment out with just,
Hmm.
are you afraid of burnout?
No, not anymore.
Not anymore
Um,
is really important. Why
Not anymore.
not anymore?
I think as I'm getting older, I'll turn 65 in June.
Mhm.
Somewhere between 63 and now, I found a second gear, and that I'm more energized by everything that I'm doing. And I
Okay.
think part of that, finding that gear, was in other people seeing things in me that I didn't see in myself, if that
Yes.
makes sense.
That makes perfect
Um,
sense.
it it it's given me the confidence to, to get out of my comfort zone a whole lot more often. 2 years ago, you couldn't. Who the hell would tell me could tell me that 2 years ago I would be modeling, much less leading a modeling group? You couldn't have told me that 2 years ago.
Right.
But because somebody saw something in me and the people around her saw the same thing, that gave me the confidence to step out and take that on as part of who I am. And the fact that I've been able to find a good synergy between modeling and what I'm doing on the air has been nothing but a godsend,
I can
because those are
totally
two
relate to that.
resources that I can actually marry.
I remember I was at a convention. You and I have talked about the Imaginarium convention before,
Hmm.
briefly.
Hmm.
I was at my first one, ran into a couple of guys, James Sabata, Don Guillory. Shout out to those two guys. And I followed them on Twitter, back and forth. They had a podcast where they did social commentary on horror movies. And I had just messaged them one day because I was having a conversation about a movie, and I just said, "Hey, have you guys ever covered this movie?" Because I wanted to see the
Hmm.
episode, right? I wanted to hear the episode if they had ever covered it and hear their thoughts, because I had opinions on that movie. And they were just, I talked to James, and James was like, "Did Don send you?" I'm like, "No, I haven't talked. Well, no, why? What's wrong? What did I do wrong?" And
Uh-huh.
they're like, "Don has been wanting to do that movie since we started this show." And here you just pop up asking me about this movie. Did Don send you? I'm like, honestly, no, he didn't. I'm
Right,
talking.
right.
We only had like a couple of interactions between, you know, up to that point. And then he's like, "Well, if we do the episode, do you want on?" Now, mind you, I only met him in person once. A
Right.
couple of interactions on Twitter. He didn't know. He barely knew my face from my screen name. So at that point, I remembered a buddy of mine telling me, "Hey, if you want to get into this space with writing and books and all this, learn to say yes. Doors
Hmm.
will open in front of you." So I said, yeah, I'll do it. Why not? I did 4 episodes of their show.
Right.
Uh, James is a close friend of mine. Me and him check in at least once a week. He's doing a bunch of panels at Imaginarium, which is why I'm not signing up to start any, because I'm just going to be all on his panels, and everyone just
Right.
knows that.
Right.
Just, it's like, okay, there's a Sabata panel, Moon's going to be on it, and doors have opened that way. And I've met a lot of wonderful people in the writing space, a lot of people who do horror. I've met those people, and it's really helped. Like you said, someone saw something in me, they trusted me, and that gave me that boost. A little bit like, you know what, maybe I can. Maybe I can.
Exactly.
Maybe, you know what? Why not? We'll say yes. We'll say yes today. And I wanted to touch on the writing thing because you, sir, are doing something mind blowing to me. You are writing the book, this autobiography of yours. You're
Hmm.
writing this book. Everything I know about radio, I learned in kindergarten. But you're
Right.
not just writing it, you are doing the audio recording simultaneously.
Yes.
Sir, how? How with the idea of edits to come? How are you doing the audio recording already?
I'm editing on the fly.
That was like
Um,
the only answer I could think of. Like, he has to be doing like hardcore editing
yeah,
before the
I'm doing
thing.
hardcore editing on the fly. One of the inspirations for me writing in the first place was a UCLA professor whose class I lectured many, many years ago. And he saw an article I'd written, and he pulls me aside after his class and says, "You know, you ought to consider writing a book because you write the way that you speak. I can read your words and hear your voice saying them."
Yeah.
And that was a nugget that I just tucked in the back of my head for just years. And I started on this book maybe 15 years ago, actually. And life got lifing and other things got in the way. And I kind of put it on the back burner and that type of thing. And what got me to go back to it was my niece, Brittany. She and her husband have a catering business in Norfolk, and she's also an author. She had just released her second book. And I'm like, the hell? This whippersnapper's got 2 books and I can't finish one?
I only have one. So
And and I'm like, and it's like the stars aligned because I got back into writing the book and then I set a goal. I said, this would be kind of cool if I could have this released by my 65th birthday in June. And so that was the first time I'd ever given myself a hard deadline.
right.
And so that's forced me to be a lot more disciplined when it comes to writing. Uh, Typically, I'll devote a couple of hours a night, but there are some nights where the stream of consciousness just goes. And I'm writing for hours and I'm going back and I'm editing what I've written and that type of thing. And so the goal now is to have the manuscript completed by the end of April,
Okay.
shop it to a publisher, and have a hard copy in my hands by June 30th.
If you don't have, because traditional publishing can get tricky,
Hmm.
would you be willing to self-publish to make
Oh,
your
heck
deadline?
yeah. Heck yeah. I mean, because I know that ACX does a self-publishing thing. I know there's a couple of other organizations that do it.
Yeah, there's
Um,
a few.
and I've been approached by a couple of publishers um, that are interested in wanting to publish the book, but I don't know enough about them as a company to do that yet. So um, it may well be a self-publishing thing, but I don't know. I'm not leaving the possibility out,
Right.
but if I can get it done the way that I actually envision it, with a decent publisher behind me, um, because I'm looking at a hardback
Yeah.
because I think the book is going to be that long, and then I want to, in fact, just following the advice of one of my clients for Mark Gunn Media, I want to get a gauge on how the hard copy is going to sell,
Hmm.
and I'll probably release the audio version maybe a month afterward. And
Interesting.
her point to me was, well, people know you for your voice anyway, so you
Hmm.
need to go ahead and release that audiobook
I would go ahead
because
and release them both the same day.
yeah. I mean, if I can get it done the same day, that's cool.
I would. This is just me personally. I would release on the same day as your book releases.
Hmm.
If for any other reason, some people just do not consume physical media, like physical books. I
Yeah.
don't. I buy physical books because I know it helps my buddies out. But
Hmm.
when it comes to having time for kids, wife, sick mother-in-law, all these things, to have time to sit down and read a book is hard enough for me to come by. But when I'm driving in the car, when I'm hanging out in
Yeah.
the house, I can let the audiobook just play. So
Hmm.
on release day, I'm looking for that audiobook. So if it was
Oh,
just
okay.
personal advice, who am I, right? But personal
Well, no,
opinion,
hey,
I
look,
would.
you're published.
Uh, yeah, when it gets to the point of like listing my credentials, that's like you guys can stop. Just
Right, right.
say that. The shelf is out of view for a reason. It's too
Right.
tall.
Okay.
But no, like my personal, I release the book
Hmm.
and then the audiobook. Remember, everyone needs their own ISBN. Each version needs their own
Yes.
ISBN, hardcover, paperback,
Hmm.
audiobook, ebook, ISBNs. Buy them in a pack. Um, that's yeah. Just buy a pack of ISBNs. Attribute one to each because you
Oh,
have to
okay.
have one for each one.
Duly noted.
Yeah, I didn't know that originally either. That each version of your book has to have its own ISBN.
Mm.
I thought that
Yeah, I
like,
didn't know that.
if I had a title, ISBN. That's what I thought, and it's like no. ISBN
Each one,
hardback, ISBN
hard
paperback,
ebook,
ISBN ebook.
audiobook.
IS, each one has their own ISBN, and that's how it identifies what version of what book it is. That's what I
Okay.
learned. Bonus data right there. But I wanted to ask, of course, the question
Hmm.
because, of course, the book is titled "Everything I Learned About Radio I Learned in Kindergarten." So, what is
Hmm.
something that you learned in kindergarten that you still use? I guess like 60 years later.
Um. Wow. Good question. Um. There's an there's an innocence that people still have.
Hmm.
Not everybody is jaded, and there's still a childlike curiosity in all of us.
Yeah,
And it's that curiosity that has served me extremely well. And yeah, I think you learn that in kindergarten.
that's fair. Yeah, that's
And I
beautiful.
mean, to be honest, the reason why I came up with that title is because I thought it sounded funny.
It does.
I mean, somebody would read that and get a laugh out of it. I'm like, oh, okay. And so it just stuck.
I mean, I like it. I mean, it's one of those things. It's like, I wonder what he did learn about
Right,
radio
exactly,
in kindergarten,
exactly.
and that's the entry. There's
Mm-hmm.
a path that everyone talks about when it comes to reading a book. They look at the cover, and then they
Right,
flip it up to the back cover. Or
right.
no, they see the spine first because it's on a shelf.
Oh, okay.
They see the
Right.
spine first, and then they look at the front cover, and then they read the back cover, and then they open the front page.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like the path of you gear your marketing in that direction.
Right,
Uh,
right. Front
but of
cover,
course,
the spine, front cover, back cover, page.
right, and of course, getting the information out there, promoting your book and promoting yourself out there. But not that that's going to be an issue because you are the owner and operator of Mark Gunn Media, which does
Mm-hmm.
all kinds of things, including the podcast Gunshot Straight from the Hip. You do photography. You do all kinds of different things. So tell me a little bit about what got Mark Gunn Media up and running.
It was one of those things to where I was at a point to where I had been making money for radio stations and other media companies.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of those things to where you actually start thinking about what your legacy is going to be. And part of that being, okay, what is it that you can leave behind or, put your stamp on? And, you know, that would be your crest or whatever.
Right, right.
And I figured if I can do all of that stuff for other people, how come I can't do it for myself? And
Might
so
as well.
that's where all that started. It's one of those things to where I've got all this knowledge that I'm sitting on. Well, let's put it to good use. Let's put it to good use. And with the breadth of experience that I have, um, I'm able to work in a lot of different forms of media. And so with the photography and writing and consulting and the whole nine yards, it's basically the total of everything that I've learned and still learning, and how can I use it to help other people.
Right. Yeah.
There are people that they're business owners, and maybe they have some trepidation about marketing or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And this is one of those things that, well, hell, you can help them out with that, and they'll pay you for it.
Likely, yeah. It's a lot of money in all these different things. Like anybody who needs headshots, advice on writing, purchasing books, or taking pictures and doing a gallery with them. I've known people who've done all those things, and there's money in all of it. I'm working on that. I'm still trying to figure all that out.
So yeah, there you go.
I got this camera I'm trying to figure out how to use. One day we'll have to go out and snap some pictures. I'll learn how to use that camera.
Yeah, the best piece of advice that I can give you is take it with you everywhere you go, and shoot as often as you possibly can. Don't ever pass up an opportunity to shoot. I remember one shoot that I did. I was downtown, just walking around, and I remember taking the bus one afternoon, and I was just shooting from the bus, and basically came up with some really incredible shots, stuff of parts of Louisville that people don't see.
Yeah.
And so, when you take that opportunity to just shoot, you also learn to see the world in a totally different way. For me, just about everything I look at is a potential photograph. I mean, even like what you're seeing right now is a potential photograph because of the way that I'm standing and the way that my house is framed. So you learn to see things differently, and it becomes a real gift. It becomes a real gift. So yeah, anytime you got a chance to shoot.
Excellent advice. And I think honestly, probably one of the best ways to close this interview out. Was there anything else that Because again, like I had this. I mean, I
Right,
did,
right.
but I mean, we touched on a lot of what I wanted to touch on anyway through the course of conversation. But I think
Hmm.
that this is one of my favorite conversations I've had. Definitely my
Oh, well,
favorite
thank you.
conversation that you and I have had. And you and I have had some good talks before in the past. I remember one
Yep.
time I was at like a really low point. I like just reached out to you. You just happened to be online, and you kind of like just talked me through the moment, and I really appreciate that. You've always been someone that I've really respected, particularly from that moment forward. And I appreciate you being on the show, and again, trusting me with this interview, because again, y'all get people on your shows to do like they're trusting you.
Yes.
You know, to not bombard them with stupid questions, make them look silly, corner them with weird questions. There's trust here, and don't violate that trust. If you're a host of a show, don't violate that trust. Just be cool people. Be
Exactly, because this stuff is forever.
Yeah. What happens in Vegas stays on the internet forever.
There you go. Exactly.
Trust me.
Exactly.
Nothing stays where you think it stays.
No.
Promise.
No.
Promise. Well, of course, before we go, I have to give you the opportunity to whatever shout outs you want to give, whatever you want to promote. If you got anything going on, talk to the people.
Oh boy. So for right now, we premiered a sports talk show called Hoops from the Ville. It's on Monday nights on WLOU 1047 WLOU Jams. I have as my hosts and co-hosts Corey Bosmer, who is huge in the sports space and online. I've got Robbie Valentine, Milt Wagner, Wiley Brown, some U of L legends, and a revolving door of folks that come in, and we just talk sports. We talk about the NCAA tournament. So the first episode is on the WLOU Facebook page if you want to check it out. Monday night at 6, we will be breaking down what happened in the first week of the tournament. And I'm calling it the barbershop edition because in addition to having some sports figures in, I'm inviting some friends of mine, and we're just going to chop it up like we do at the barbershop, minus the curse words.
Right. Right, because it is still radio.
Right. So that's Monday night at 6 on 1047 WLOU Jams. Also, what else do we have coming up? Oh my gosh. Quite a few things that are coming up as far as concerts and different events like that. Just go to our website at WLOUonline.com, or you can catch me on any one of my socials. Just look for my name, and it'll either come up Mark Gunn Media, Gunshy 357, or whatever. Just search for me by name, and you'll be able to find me.
I would say go to markgunmedia.com. That's your website. You should be able to find Mark in all of his different spaces from there, so you can make sure you get the right Mark Guns. There's a few other Mark Guns out there.
There are, but they're not me.
They're not him. That's it. Yeah. So shoot me all those links. I'll make sure I'll throw those links in the description when I post this.
Okay.
Probably Monday. So yeah, when you guys watch this is probably Monday.
Right.
Oh, it is now because I said that out loud. So it is now.
Monday.
It'll be Monday. Today is Monday.
Today's Monday.
After you watch this, you can go watch Raw, or if you watch this early enough, you can watch the show on WLOUonline.com and watch that show, and then after that, watch Monday Night Raw.
There you go. So no matter where you go, there we are.
There we are. We're everywhere. So yeah, thank you, Mark Gunn, for being on this show. I'm so thankful to have you here. Thank you guys for watching. Do the things that YouTube people tell you to do at this point, like liking and all that good stuff. Until next time, I'm Dwan Elhern, more affectionately known as Moon, and this is Moon Unscathed.